Welcome to the HR Chat Show, one of the world's most downloaded and shared podcasts designed for HR pros, talent execs, tech enthusiasts, and business leaders. For hundreds more episodes and what's new in the world of work, subscribe to the show, follow us on social media, and visit hrgazette.com.
Welcome to another episode of the HR Chat Show. Hello, this is Bill Banham. Joining me on this episode is a guest who was recommended to me by none other than Ben Eubanks, Chief Research Officer over at Lighthouse Research and Advisory, best-selling author, fellow podcaster, past HR chat guest, and all-round good egg. If you haven't listened to Ben's show yet, I'd urge you to check out the We're Only Human podcast. So my guest is Ben's friend, Tim Whitley, Director of HR Tech over at Oklahoma State University. Tim says that he's fascinated by the intersection of technology and HR and believes in its transformative power to turn HR from a functional necessity into a strategic powerhouse. Tim recognizes the critical role that HR tech professionals play in this domain, working tirelessly behind the scenes to bring tech magic to life, and he's on a mission to support these unsung heroes in their work, providing them with the tools, resources, and recognition that they deserve. Outside of work, you'll find Tim absorbed in science fiction and fantasy. We've got to talk. I've got this idea about the Sci-Fi of HR podcast. Let's talk about that. Training for a dance competition and planning his dream RV life with his wife and 3 kids. Hey, Tim, welcome to the show today.
Thanks for having me, Bill. I appreciate the time.
And what I didn't mention there is it's Tim's first time on a podcast, everyone. So I'm going to go easy on Tim here and give him a nice first experience. That's the plan here. Although you know me, sometimes I'll throw in a tricky question here and there. Let's start with an easy one though, Tim. Please introduce yourself beyond my reintroduction. Please introduce yourself and tell me about your work over at Oklahoma State University.
Sure. Thank you, Bill. I love this idea of a HR sci-fi podcast, so we will have to talk about that for sure. I've been working in the HR tech field for going on 10 years now. It's something I kind of fell into, like a lot of people. I don't think anybody wakes up saying they want to be an HR tech person when they grow up. But since getting into it, I've fallen in love. Like I said in my bio, I love the intersection of the human part of HR and how it works with technology, how technology is supported by strategy. And my current role really focused on implementing HR systems within a higher education space. I've been in this space for about 2 years. It's very different from working in a corporate environment where I came from. It's much more purpose driven, there's a level of energy and excitement. Right now, we are getting ready to start the fall semester, so students are going to start coming back. So there's just a level of excitement that comes with that. It is still, in a lot of ways, very bureaucratic. There's lots of red tape. Any changes or new systems or tools have to go through, the seven layers of hell, all the committees and buy-in, but I find it to be a really exciting space, and there's a lot of cool things going on in the tech world there. So,
Thanks for tuning in to the HR Chat podcast. If you're enjoying this episode, we'd really appreciate it if you could subscribe and leave a 5-star review on your podcast platform of choice. And now, back to the conversation.
I am involved with organising a bunch of different events, for HR pros, leaders, talent professionals and such. I'm getting involved with one in the UK in October, which is a summit all about AI and how it's here, how it's impacting our personal lives and our work lives. So I wanted to start with you by asking you what's happened in the last sort of year, 18 months to put generative AI and deep language models on the average Joe's agenda at the forefront of all of our minds. It's no longer something that the clever dudes in the background, the tech guys like yourself, have been talking about for years. Now it's part of the general narrative. Why is that? What's changed?
Yeah, like you said, AI has been around for a while. It's even had some applications within HR. the hiring side. But I think what we're seeing now with tools like ChatGPT, Claude, and Bard is that they're, for the first time, they're truly accessible to the public in a way that we haven't seen before. You're seeing it pop up in creative tools like Adobe, Photoshop, and Canva, and we're seeing Microsoft and Google starting to roll out AI features into Word and Excel, their Sheets functionality. And I think with this, we're not only seeing it how it impacts our tools, but we're seeing just how useful it is in daily life. People are creating meal plans, they're building grocery lists, they're creating training agendas or trip itineraries. I was just talking to a coworker who's getting ready to go to Paris, and she was telling me how she's seen people use it to plan their Paris trip around train stops. So I think it's very exciting. But I think with any technology, there's risks and there's a lot of hype that we need to be aware of. But I do think this truly is technology that's going to change a lot of things in HR.
And how early stages are we at the moment, Tim? I was having a conversation with my event co-producer just this morning over a delicious coffee, and he was saying, Bill, the general public have got no idea of the capabilities of tools that are being born out of things like ChatGPT right now.
Mm-hmm.
Give it 5 years and it's going to be so far ahead. We're only just skimming the surface. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, and I think so, and I think that's where we're seeing some of the hype. There's these different apps that have popped up, and really they're just built on ChatGPT. But what you're finding is if there's flaws in the underlying model, then the app is going to display those same flaws as well. So, but I do think like you said, we're in the early stages, and I think it's going to get to the point to where these tools are going to be robust enough they can maintain the security of the organization and privacy and keep the data where it needs to be, but still have the same capabilities to bring in data from outside sources in a way that'll be very useful. I've got there's a lot of interesting use cases I see within HR and specifically within HR tech.
Once in a while, an event series is born that shakes things up, it makes you think differently, and it leaves you inspired. That event is Disrupt HR. The format is 14 speakers, 5 minutes each, and slides rotate every 15 seconds. If you're an HR professional, a CEO, a technologist, or a community leader and you've got something to say about talent, culture, or technology, Disrupt is the place. It's coming soon to a city near you. Learn more at disrupthr.co.
Okay, well, let's talk about some of those now, Tim. What impact do you see the AI revolution having on HR and specifically the HR tech profession? And if you've got some use cases, some stats, some trends that you want to throw in as part of your answer, please do.
Sure. I think for HR as a whole, what I see as exciting about AI is the integration or the melding of technology and the human element. Companies are looking, a lot of company leadership are looking at these tools as ways to save time, to cut costs, unfortunately, maybe in ways eliminate jobs. But I think it's going to be up to HR to be leading the charge, not only thinking about how these tools will impact the workforce, but also how they can be used correctly to create value. I think in HR tech specifically, I see a lot happening around natural language processing. And this has been around, you've seen some tools like IBM's Watson. They've integrated that into different things where you can, like if you need a report or something, you just type in natural language what you're trying to pull and it can pull it for you. But I think in HR, thinking about, think about like hiring an employee. I mean, it's such a cumbersome process right now in most organizations, not only from the system perspective, but just all the different people that you have to get involved. So I'm picturing a world where, a hiring manager types in, I need to open up this type of requisition for this position. And you've actually got a bot that's walking you through the step. It's asking you all the questions. It's going through the approvals and notifications. It's posting the rec. Once the person is hired, it's making the entries within the HRIS system. And obviously the key part of that is going to be, the human element of each step along the way, checking, validating the data, making sure that it's doing what it's supposed to be doing. I think where I see really the value of HR tech people like myself in this world is we all know for every smooth integration, for every fun-looking user interface, there's people giving their blood, sweat, and tears on the background to make that happen. And I think that's where HR tech people are going to be an essential key in making those tools work for organizations, doing auditing data and making sure they're working correctly.
Tiger Hall is a social learning platform that offers professional learners a personalized and engaging experience. And we're proud to support this episode of the HR Chat podcast. Think of Tiger Hall as the social media of learning, where you get bite-sized, real-world, actionable insights from leaders and subject matter experts in your organization, industry trailblazers, and top executives from Fortune 500 companies. Dive into Tiger Hall for an innovative experience in micro-learning, scaling tribal knowledge, sales enablement, leadership development, peer-to-peer learning through engaging social cohorts, and more. Visit tigerhall.com to learn more and start your 30-day trial today.
Okay, thank you. I want to tease a bit more out of you from your answer there by talking a bit more about strategy and ways to plug humans into all these new cool technologies and vis-a-vis, of course. And I'm going to do that through a pretty cool quote that I found by you on a LinkedIn post, a fairly recent LinkedIn post. And you say the following: the most effective HR technology strategy entails 1, leveraging automation to free time for meaningful person-to-person interactions. I'd agree with that. 2, data and analytics to supply insights that complement human judgment. Seems fair to me. And 3, blending technological innovation with employee-centric design. By capitalizing on these interactions, we can empower people to thrive in a workplace that maximizes value and humanity. You are a wordsmith, sir. Well done. So tell me more about this idea of plugging humans into the tech and vice versa. What does that look like? What's happening right now? What can we expect to be happening over the next 12 months in terms of integrating technology into the processes, having folks who are more tech savvy, being able to fully manipulate the clever new AI-fueled technologies that are at our disposal?
I was reading a blog article by Dr. Ethan Mollick. He's a professor at the Wharton School at the University of Pennsylvania, and he was talking about how the best AI or automation tools are going to be boring. And it's funny to think about, but we think about the tasks that we will benefit the most from automation, and it's those boring tasks like managing our calendars or sending communications out, or like I talked about, like getting approvals, filling out workplace injury forms. I mean, there's so many day-to-day tasks I think about the average HR person that they're having to do that aren't really value added. An HR business partner, for instance, is their time is best spent meeting with leaders, helping them come up with a workforce strategy, helping them deal with employee relations issues. They shouldn't be spending all their time filling out paperwork or submitting forms, or all the kind of administrative tasks that go along with HR. And so I think that's kind of what I was trying to capture is when we can take those tasks off of people's plates, frees up their time and frees up their mental energy to do the things that they are really good at and that they're being paid for. And with HR tech folks, there's going to be a lot of impetus on them to figure out where those tools should be used, what's the best uses of those tools. We're seeing a lot. We've seen AI a lot now in the recruitment process as far as selecting candidates, ranking candidates, and I think that for me is a scary use case, and I think it kind of looks sexy, and that's why the vendors sell it so hard. Is this can help you streamline your candidate processing or your hiring, but I think that's a use case where you're really taking the human element out of it, and where you should be keeping the human element in. I mean, there's just so much that you can't see in reading somebody's resume or a video of their interview. I think if we can have our recruiters or HR people focusing on the human pieces of that recruitment part, we can automate the repetitive tasks that aren't value added in that process.
When advising newcomers to the HR tech space, Tim, what key skills and competencies would you suggest that they focus on developing?
For people coming into this space, it can be very overwhelming. Especially now, there's so many tools out there. A lot of people that end up in HR tech don't have a background in HR, they don't have a background in IT. So there's just a lot. But what I suggest is really focusing on the foundational skills. And those are things that I consider like project management, business process improvement, communication, written and verbal, and just problem solving. I got my project management certification about 3 years into my HR tech career, and it's been invaluable for me. Just understanding that mindset of how do you get the right people involved? How do you create a plan? How do you understand dependencies and costs and budgets in a project? I think our work has been project-based for a while, but it's going to continue to get more project-based as we roll out new tools, new initiatives to support these tools. I think those things are the keys to success for HR people, and they're going to allow them to adapt to really any tool that comes along. A good HR tech person isn't a Workday expert or a SuccessFactors expert or a Cornerstone expert. They're really a systems expert. They know the underlying structure, they know how systems work, and they are able to adapt to any system and make it work for the organization. I'm actually working on a guide that I'm putting together for new HR tech folks that I'm going to be publishing out on my blog, and I can link that somewhere as well.
Okay, it's his first time on the podcast, listeners, but he's not ashamed of a plug. I like him.
Learn that from Ben.
Big shout out to you, Ben. Okay, 2 more questions for you before we do wrap up for today, Tim. In your opinion, and I'm going to challenge you because it's such a big question, but I feel like you've touched upon it in multiple answers before. But it does seem like a good penultimate question to ask you nonetheless. So, in 60 seconds or less, in your opinion, what are the biggest challenges and opportunities facing the HR tech sector over the next 5 years? Go.
I think the biggest challenge is going to be pulling the wheat from the chaff. So with all these tools, there's going to be some that are just total rubbish. There's going to be some that are dangerous. So I think I wrote in a recent post about shiny new tool syndrome. I think a lot of organizations and leaders are suffering from that right now because they're seeing what these tools are being promised to do as far as saving time and money. And it's going to be up to us to determine if those things are doing it correctly and compliantly. And I think on the opportunity side, just the innovation, like I talked about, the opportunity to cut out menial tasks, to eliminate a lot of that drudgery work, I think is going to really enhance our productivity. I think that was 60 seconds.
No, it was more like 80, but it's okay. It's your first time. I'll let you off, Tim. And just finally for today, how can folks connect with you? Is that LinkedIn? Is that email? Are you all over the TikToks, Instagrams, and all the other cool socials? Tell us more.
So mostly LinkedIn, and then I have a blog, www.hrtechwizard.com. I going to be posting on there. That's where I'll put my guide for new HRIS professionals. So either of those places will be great ways to link up with me.
Excellent. Well, that just leaves me to say for today, Tim Whitley, you superstar. Well done with your first podcast interview. It was a success. Thank you very much for being my guest.
Thank you, Bill. I appreciate the opportunity so much. It was great.
And listeners, as always, until next time, happy working.
Thanks for listening to the HR Chat Show. If you enjoyed this episode, why not subscribe and listen to some of the hundreds of episodes published by HR Gazette? And remember, for what's new in the world of work, subscribe to the show, follow us on social media, and visit hrgazette.com.